This is Donald Parham. You're listening to Chargers Unleashed, part of the LAFB Network. Stay jiggy.
Hey, this is Chris from the 2nd, Chargers outside linebacker, and make sure you check out Chargers Unleashed.
Shout out to Chargers Unleashed, Sebastian Joseph Day, you know the vibes, we outside.
You checking in with Mike Williams from the LA Chargers, and you're tuning in to Chargers Unleashed.
You're listening to the Chargers Unleashed podcast with your host, Dan Wolkenstein and Jake Hefner.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, being brought to you by BetOnline, Charger Bolt Family, Rock Solid Sports Memorabilia, and Athletic Greens. If this is your first time tuning into the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein. Sometimes they look pretty. Sometimes they look ugly. But in the case of the Chargers on this Monday, December 19th,
Victory Monday,
it's still the same when it comes out with a W. So, Chargers, in dramatic fashion, on the arm of Justin Herbert, along with the leg of Dicker the Kicker, overcome an ugly win, but a win nonetheless, 17-14, beating the Tennessee Titans, now positioned into the fifth seed as it relates to the the sixth seed as it relates to the playoffs, with 3 weeks to go left in the regular season. And for this particular victory Monday, I'm going to let Dan Wolkenstein take it from here because a very special guest is going to join us here on the show.
Matt Money Smith, voice of the Chargers, surfer extraordinaire, and also just a genuinely incredible dude, is going to be joining us on Chargers Unleashed to talk about this Week 15 victory, kind of go into some of the coaching, some of the heroics, some of the unsung heroes, as well as what to expect kind of moving forward. Jake, we talked about the over-under on 150 yards rushing last week. They hit the under. Let's talk about our friends over at BetOnline.
Also, you had asked me about the turnovers for the Chargers. I picked the under when you put 2.5, and so
if you listen to Jake Hefner, you're making money.
Well, no, don't necessarily
this
follow
week.
This
week.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes on that. But anyways, for those of you who are interested in making some wagers, make sure to go and check out our friends over at BetOnline. You'll always find the latest odds and team matchup info, player news, and game trends over at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head on over to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. And make sure to use that promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts.
So, Jake, we're going to be talking to Matt Money Smith here. I do got to say, shout out to the Bolt fam. Shout out to everyone who was at SoFi. That place was rocking. Felt like a playoff game. It was loud. Coach Staley even talked about it in the press conference yesterday, how the team felt the energy. I'm going to read a quote real quick, Jake. "This was a big game from our team," said Brandon Staley. "You could really feel it. When we were on defense, you could hear it. The energy that it provides your team. Then, obviously, the big plays on offense. You're going to get all that noise. Then when your kicker hits it at the end, that eruption, the powder blues are coming." You hear Brandon Staley talk about powder blues week over week over week, and you can see kind of the momentum building. Chargers get a win, dramatic fashion, 17-14, 2-game winning streak against two current playoff teams. Matt Money Smith can be joining us to talk all about it. Last but not least, Jake, I woke up feeling energized today. I woke up 3 ice cubes, 1 shaker, Athletic Greens gave me AG1. I am rocking life today. I am feeling wonderful with all these vitamins and minerals and all this gorgeousness that's in life right now with the Chargers riding a high 8-6 in the playoff seed. Let's talk about our friends over at Athletic Greens and AG1.
As I said last week on our interview with Jasir Taylor, Dan Wolkenstein claims that Athletic Greens makes him even more optimistic.
It's my secret sauce.
Which is insane considering how optimistic Dan already is. So if you're looking to get on Dan's level, you got to go out and get yourself some Athletic Greens, right? But as Dan said, we've both been trying Athletic Greens now for about 2 months. I started taking it a while back. I've always been trying to keep myself fit. My diet, sadly, has never, and I mean never, over the 22 years that I have been going to the gym, been on a good swing. So Athletic Greens, definitely from a standpoint of, if you're not into the whole going out to the grocery store and blending all your veggie shakes and your kale and your carrots and your celery and whatever it is that you have to do, this is a great replacement for that, from in terms of vegetables and minerals and vitamins from a daily dose standpoint. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop of in a cup of water every day, or if you're in Dan Wolkenstein's case, there were 3 ice cubes in the shaker, but 1 scoop in a water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens right now is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go visit athleticgreens.com/Chargers Unleashed. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Chargers Unleashed to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
The man in the booth, Matt Money Smith, joins us next on Chargers Unleashed. We are extremely excited. We have a very special guest, money guest, if you will. Chargers win 8-6. The man in the booth calling the plays, Mr. Matt Money Smith, the man, the myth, the legend, joined us here on Chargers Unleashed after that Titans victory. We all went crazy. We all sweat a bit, but here we are. Matt, thanks for joining us. Welcome to Chargers Unleashed again. Friend of the show, how are you?
Yeah, happy to be here, Dan, Jake. What's happening? Good Victory Monday to do a pod.
Yes, good Victory Monday. Look, we have all kinds of stuff we want to get into. Obviously, I'll talk about the heroics of Justin Herbert, Dicker the kicker, talk about some of the coaching assessment so far these last couple of weeks. Obviously, get into maybe some of the struggles that we've seen on offense, as well as some of the unsung heroes. But, Matt, that game yesterday, I was there live. Felt like a playoff game. The atmosphere was wild. Chargers fans showed out, by the way. What was kind of your overall take on the game? I know you called it from the booth. You had that end of the game Dicker the kicker call. What was your take on the game overall? Kind of key themes, key takeaways for you?
I think key takeaways, probably defense was great. Again, totally different scheme and approach to slowing an offense down than the week prior when they were great. And, they carried the day. And obviously, Justin Herbert was sensational when he had to be to get the win. And special teams continues to be a very important part of this team. And it's really kind of been a drag for this team, maybe the 3-4 years prior, where it's really shined, and it's been a big reason for their success. So I think just kind of overall takeaways, and especially on a day like you look at, as I'll just kind of pop over just so I can kind of remind myself as I look at the scoreboard, like just look at the games yesterday,
Crazy.
It was all underdogs that won for the most part. I mean, the Vikings have to rally to beat, a pretty bad Colts team. The Browns knock off the Ravens. The Bears give the Eagles everything they can handle. Same thing, the Lions knock off the Jets, who mismanaged the clock at the end of that thing. The Panthers, needed to win out to make the playoffs. They lose at home to the Steelers. I mean, it was just one. Chiefs needed overtime. Patriots had that ridiculous play to lose to the Raiders. Like, it was just, it was a crazy day. So I think the most important thing for people that, want style points, weeks after week like 13, 14, when the playoffs start to get sorted out, just figure out how to win.
Ask the Dolphins fans how they're feeling about that style points and that loss.
Exactly. Yeah, they played great. They played a great game in Buffalo and lost. So don't, should the did you think the Chargers were going to score more than 17 against a defense that allowed back-to-back 350-yard passers? Yeah, but the game was what it was, and they got the W.
Matt, you had mentioned at the top of your takeaways there, just as far as the defense goes. Obviously, we've seen a big-time resurgence from this defense over the last 2 weeks against Miami and Tennessee, and doing this a lot, obviously, without Derwin James. 2 weeks ago, they were very unmanned when it came to certain players being out. What have you seen, just if you took it from a microcosm of these 2 weeks with this defensive unit, as opposed to, earlier in the season, the way that this team was playing defense, what is it that you've seen change with Coach Hill or Coach Staley's philosophy with this defensive scheme that they're drawing up?
I think they're just more aggressive. And I don't mean that necessarily from like they're blitzing more or anything like that. It feels, you've heard Coach Staley say it repeatedly. They're connected. And I think, that's perhaps press man from the secondary. So you can maybe give the front line an extra beat to get home now instead of playing soft and allowing a lot of those underneath completions. So I think connected is the key word. You hear that a lot from football people. And, are all three levels of your defense playing in concert with one another, which typically leads to success. And I think you saw that quite a bit yesterday. Even though Derrick Henry gets out of that game with over 100 yards and a touchdown, what you saw was, fight from the D-line to not let him get a big head of steam. They set the edges. And then next, line of defense, linebackers played really well. Kenneth Murray, Drew Tranquil tackled. Their run fits were great. And then you get to the secondary, and there was nothing available downfield. Like Ryan Tannehill had nothing. So everything was underneath. Everything was just a slog, and it was going to be tough to continue, and they couldn't convert on third down. So, you're talking about a team that was, I think, 1 for 8 on third down going into that final drive when they softened up a little bit and wanted them to, perhaps, just make sure you don't let any explosive plays get over your head or let Derrick Henry break one. So certainly that final drive that led to a touchdown was a little bit different, but I think that's kind of what we saw. And we saw it as well in the Miami game the week prior, since you mentioned that, Jake. Like, what's been the difference the last 2 weeks is, they played a ton of press and they did not allow those quick completions. And I know that's just been dissected to the, bejesus bells already, so we don't need to go through that. But, I think to me, that's what's changed, is the defense has now been more connected, because I think it's mostly the way the secondary is playing, which has been a little bit more aggressive than we saw earlier in the season.
It's interesting you mentioned kind of like those themes for the defense, because Brandon Staley in the press conference yesterday, I'm pulling it up, there's a quote when he was asked about what the run defense did well versus the Titans. He mentioned knockback, edges, second level, and swarm, tackling well, no catastrophic misses. They were coming to hit Derrick Henry, which I think you mentioned that aggressiveness. He was talking about how like so many people just get pummeled by Derrick Henry. And yesterday, the Chargers just went out there and kind of took it to him and kind of put it on their terms. So it's interesting to see this Chargers defense do this in a completely different style than what we saw against Miami. And it's basically like a tale of two halves of which type of defense does this team have to run, and can they do it against a juggernaut of an offense and a juggernaut of a physical offense in the Titans. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a key in there too was just set the edges. That's been a huge issue for this team all season, is their edges have been up. Well, I shouldn't say edges. Khalil Mack's been sensational all year.
The edge.
It's been the opposite edge. And I think it's, it's important to point out, look, Kyle Van Noy did not sign up to be your starting, end when he signed here. I think he figured the majority of his play was going to be in the middle of the field. And situationally show up as an edge, or, spell Joey when he needed a rest. So, it took him a while, but now you're really starting to see. And I think so much of it, too, is just the improved play of Braden Fajoko and how good he's been on the interior. So I just, quickly before you move on, I think it's important to acknowledge that, yes, they are now that it's been so much pitch and a lot of attacking the edges that have led to those explosive gains. And it seems like they've been able to kind of figure that out here.
Now, Matt, you get to call these games every week, and every week seems like it's Heart Attack City. Yesterday was no different. What was it like kind of calling that last drive? We'll talk about a couple plays. One, the obvious, stupid, ridiculous, insane, incredible throw from Justin Herbert, and also reaction just like that sequence with Mike Williams. But then also Cameron Dicker comes in, and the Chargers make a field goal to win it. Tennessee loses. They missed a field goal earlier in the game. Like, walk us through that last 40 seconds of heroics and calling that game.
Yeah, I guess I'll start by saying, like, I was floored. I mean, floored that they did not go for two. I don't quite understand that with all the time left on the clock. The only thing I can think of is you go for two, you get it, and you arguably give, someone that you probably have a lot of respect for an extra down. It's like, okay, well, if we tie, then if we get a stop on third down, they're going to punt because they don't want to leave us in field goal position, and now we can get to overtime. So
Jake and I were talking about that, and I was thinking that if Staley didn't call those timeouts, and there was maybe 5 seconds left, 10 seconds left in the game, I think they go for 2.
Yeah,
But
I think so too, for sure. But I still am surprised they didn't go for 2 because then there's just increased pressure. Now it's not, okay, if we don't get it, we're going to overtime. We feel pretty good about this defense being beat to hell. They're down 7 starters, and our defense has played really well all day. So, like, to me, there was just a distinct advantage for the Chargers in overtime. So that was part one. They tie it up, and I don't know. It just, to me, and I don't know if the players or coaches would say they felt the same way, but it was just like, oh, well, that's a relief. Because if this goes to overtime, I can't envision how the Titans win this game unless, a busted assignment and a giant Derrick Henry run, scores a touchdown. But outside of that, the defense just played so well. And there's been so much left on the table for the Chargers offense where they just repeatedly after that first drive, just kind of did themselves in, whether it was a penalty or a missed connection that was wide open. Like, it was a very odd game offensively where the plays were there. They were either negated, they were thrown off schedule by a missed assignment, either at the line that led to a sack or a tackle for loss or a bad penalty. It was just a very weird game that way offensively. So that was my initial thought. And then I don't know. I felt like they were going to get it. I felt like, oh yeah, against this team with this defense being in the state that it's in, they're down to like guys that were just signed 2 weeks ago that are playing in the secondary right now. So Justin Herbert and Mike and Keenan and Gerald, they should all be able to take advantage of that. And they did. And like you said, the throw was ridiculous. It's, kind of like that. How many players in the league or how many combinations, quarterback, wide receivers combinations can make that play in the league? And I don't know what that number is, but I can't imagine it being very high of, just the magic that Justin and Mike have together. And then just finally to put a button on it, you mentioned Cam Dicker. He's crazy good. Like there's something about him that I really like, that it's, just I'm fortunate to be around the team, the way he carries himself. He has got this super, and it's not manufactured. He's just this crazy, laid back, doesn't give a rip kind of guy. He just seems, you see other kickers and I'm interpreting and, body language and stuff, but you can just kind of see there's a little bit of discomfort. I'm a specialist. I'm not really kind of, one of the guys. And that's always awkward for the specialists, and not him, man. He's just like, whatever. He'll sit at any table in the snack room. He'll just kind of do his own thing. The way he walks onto the field, the way he warms up, when I don't know if the cameras catch it or if people can see it on TV, but just his mannerisms when he's lined up to kick, when he kicks after like that kick was 43 yards. It left his foot. He didn't even watch it go through. He just kind of turned, and like he wasn't celebrating or anything. He just kind of turned to JK and just kind of slapped him. And he was like, all right,
what's for dinner?
We're going to kick off now. So let's go do that. I love him. I think they really found something with him, especially because he's a rookie, and there's something to be said about having a guy on that pay scale, as opposed to, I don't know what they're going to decide to do at the end of the year with Dustin and stuff, but it is very beneficial to have a young kicker just to reset the salary of your kicker moving forward.
Matt, I wanted to touch on something that you kind of brought up just in terms of the offense and, your expectations that you were talking about. You've seen this defense, as far as the Titans go, yield 350 yards over the last 2 weeks. They've struggled. They've lost 4 straight. You would have thought on paper, given the injuries, that the Chargers would have been able to go out and handle their business a lot better than they did yesterday. A lot of criticism has really come on Joe Lombardi, whether it's in the national media or whatever, people saying that, he's handcuffing Justin Herbert with some of these play calls and the inconsistencies from week to week basis. Just when you go from the performance and the game plan in Miami, Justin Herbert has a career high in completions, extremely efficient. I thought the game plan that they dialed up in that game was superb for what Miami was bringing at them. And then you go from the 12-play opening drive of this game against the Titans to get 7 on the board. And then it just seems, for whatever reason or another, it went away from them. And especially the drive that was really stuck in my mind was the Chargers defense gets the ball back, just over 3 minutes to go. And some of that offensive sequence that was just out there, in which the Chargers had to end up punting it back to the Titans, just from what we have seen from training camp up until now, the message that we've heard about football 202, just what's your assessment of kind of what really is the goal of these offensive play calls from Joe Lombardi? Do you see a theme? Do you see what they're trying to do?
Yeah, I think coach takes a lot of incoming that's probably not deserved. To me, if you go, and I watched every one of the dropbacks already from yesterday, the plays are there. Like, they're there to be made. There's availability downfield. The problem is protection. So I think that's what people fail to kind of follow is, okay, what on this check down, what was the protection situation? Look, Justin has been under duress almost every drop back, and look, Salyer's been great. He has been fantastic considering. Trey Pipkins has been solid. The problem's been the interior. Matt Filer had a rough day yesterday, and he's had a couple of those that are rough, and it's understandable. Look, he's going up against one of the best interior players in the league in Jeffrey Simmons, even though, he's been banged up. Simmons is incredible. I mean, the guy's 315 pounds and moves like a 260-pound edge. So, it's a tall task. And I think kind of what you're seeing is Justin's Herbert's willingness to stand in the pocket and deliver, as that pressure is in his face. Now, what you can't have is those deep developing routes. Unless he's going to boot every single time. And sooner or later, that just you can't do that on every play. So, he's got to take some of those short completions. I think, the one thing that you'd like to see is it's a run game that's been working, is a little bit more run, a little bit more devotion to the run. But I get it. When you have Herbert back there, it's like, well, why would we not use this? Let's just go get it, and so that part I get. But I think, I think I'm answering your question is, and I think I mentioned it a little earlier, like those drives, they all had good drive starters. You've got a couple first downs. Like when you look at the first down totals, like it's not a bad number. When you look at the passing totals, it's not a bad number. The problem was one or two plays. And most of the time it's lack of execution. It's not bad play calling. It's just, you got to miss here. You got to drop here. You didn't quite get to the sticks here. And, a couple rough penalties, a couple holding penalties. So I think, that's the thing. And I saw, I think some people that are like, oh, well, when they run 2 minute, look how great it is. Well, yeah, but they're running 2 minutes. So teams are playing light boxes and you're getting those check downs. And then when they honor the check down, now you're getting your one-on-one. It's just teams. It's a different defense you're facing. They're rushing 3. They're not rushing 4 or 5 and, getting that pressure. So I think to answer your question, look, I think it's important to look at the totality of an offensive play. Who's on the field? This is only the second game we've had Palmer, Keenan, and Mike. And yesterday was a really rough day for Zion and Matt Filer, for Zion Johnson and Matt Filer. There's just a butt ton of pressure in Herbert's lap from the interior almost every single snap.
I guess maybe to be a little more pointed, like I think 2 weeks ago, a lot of criticism for basically the entire coaching staff. Like the defense sucks, the offense sucks. Herbert.
Oh, for the Raider game?
Yeah, exactly. Basically coming out of that game, everyone was upset with every coach on the staff. Fast forward 2 weeks, I feel like now Staley is now like, everyone likes him. Ronaldo Hill, I think everyone now is kind of like, all right, cool, this defense is actually what we thought it would be. But everyone still, like you mentioned, everyone still kind of gives heat to Lombardi. In your opinion, do you think the offense has a coaching issue, or is it something like, because everyone is basically saying Lombardi? I know situational and the pressure and all that kind of stuff, but you would think an offensive coach would be able to kind of scheme around that. Do they have could they improve in the coaching aspect there, or is this kind of out of his hands?
I just don't. I think for me, I don't think it's fair. I don't think having Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, and Keenan Allen for 2 games and 15 snaps, out of 16 or out of 15 is enough, or 14 is enough. I think you need more than that. Having the offensive line issues, being down 4/5 of your offensive line in a couple of these games, being down your left tackle that you built a team around, knowing, okay, we don't have to help him like that. Like Rashawn Slater does not need to be helped. So we don't necessarily need to think about that big blocking tight end so I think you got to remember, and look, and I'm not trying to say that's an issue for Tom Telesco either. I think you go into a season and say, okay, where do we need depth? Where do we not? And so I think it's important to remember that losing Slater it was just gigantic on offense because of everything you were able to do, because your blind side is now good. You do not have to think twice about it. And I think Slater made Filer better. Filer was kind of, you're able to make him a better player because he's between Slater and Lindsley now.
Right.
And so your entire left side of the line is locked down. You're good. Herbert can worry about what's right in front of him when he drops back. He does not have to worry about what's behind him. So that's now changed everything. And because he's such a fast processor and he knows that pressure has been quite regular, the second he gets to a progression that's open, the ball's out. That's not on Lombardi. That's on Justin. Like, okay, I can't go broke taking a profit. I'm going to take the 5 yards because I know that potentially there's probably something behind me coming. And I can kind of feel it because it's regularly there. So I think that's important to remember as well. You're talking about a guy that's getting pressured on over 40% of his dropbacks. And when you're getting pressured 4 out of every, 50, almost half of, it's like 44, 45%, almost half your dropbacks, it's hard to, especially when you're coming off fractured rib cartilage that certainly had something to do with his season. Like, it's hard to stand in there and let those routes downfield develop. So I'm anxious to see how these final 3 games look and hopefully the postseason. The guy, like, I'm just trying to pull it up right now. I don't know exactly what the number is, but he's at 4,019 yards against the Colts, the Rams. He's got a shot at 5,000. It's not likely, but he's got a shot. He is. So what happens if he throws back-to-back 5,000 yards, even if it doesn't get to 5,000? Okay, so he gets to 4,700 yards, let's say 26 touchdowns. Like, wow, what a bad offense. I get it. I totally get it because he is such a special player. You want to see it uncorked and you want to see it look like it did last year and how it looked toward the back end of his rookie year.
I hope Chargers fans are listening to this, Jake. Because,
look, I get it though. I really liked the offense that Shane ran his rookie season, and right. You can see what Shane and Nick are doing in Philadelphia. So I understand that side of it. It's like, man, this thing wasn't broken. This was not broken after his rookie year, and you can imagine now you're at instead of being in 202, you're in 303.
Yeah.
So I get that part of it, and I love Shane, and I mean it's clear you see what they've done with Philadelphia and the weapons they have. So that part of it I get. At the same time, I think coming off a 5,000-yard season, and not having really any continuity on offense, it's a little harsh.
Matt, we know that Justin Herbert obviously gets the headlines. The Chargers now sitting 8-6, technically the 6th seed with 3 weeks to go here in the regular season. Obviously, this team would not even be in this position if they did not have him. But let's talk about some guys who don't get enough attention. I think I know one that you're going to bring up. But if we talked about some of the unsung heroes of this team, whether it's on offense or defense, who would be some that would come to mind for you?
Well, there's a lot. Look, it's hard to believe this team is 8-6 and I think has a legitimate shot at the 5 seed. And if everybody all of a sudden is healthy for week 1 in the wild card round, and Joey Bosa's back out there and Slater's back out there, yeah, look out because we know what it looked like through, a game and a half before things got sideways. So unsung heroes, 1, Khalil Mack, no doubt about it. I think people want to see 15, 18 sacks. That's not what he does. He affects everything. You cannot run his way. So that's why I said he sets an edge. He's probably the best run defender at the edge position in the league, and that's held this year. They've run opposite him. That's where all of the leaking has come from. His pressure is what led to those sacks yesterday. The sack by Gaziano, the sack by Tranquil, the sack by Chris Rumpf, all 3 of them were Khalil Mack collapsing that side and pushing Tannehill that way into that pressure. He's so good. He is so freaking good. And, Coach brought it up yesterday when he was on the post game with us. He just, he pointed, I think DJ might have said it. He just said, the box score just doesn't do him justice with what he does. So that's 1. 2, Mikey Davis has been exceptional. Just so good. This has been his best season. And especially considering the challenges that J.C. Jackson was having trying to settle into this defense and get his legs under him. knowing that every time there was an issue, Davis came in and didn't miss a beat. And he's been really, really good. Got his 10th pass defense yesterday. That's a big number, man. If you're a corner and you got 10 passes defense, that is a big number for big-time corners. And Drew Tranquil, he's Pro Bowler. Yeah, like Drew's a Pro Bowler. No doubt about it. He's a Pro Bowler. His run fits are great. The interception, the 4 sacks, leading the team in tackles. So like that would be defensively, offensively, number one, Sawyer. Like it's crazy that you lose one of the 2 or 3 best left tackles in football. You got to replace him with a 6th rounder that was supposed to be converted to a guard and was too slow and squatty and didn't have the length to play left tackle. And he's been great.
Has he been Rashawn Slater? No. Like no one's saying he was Rashawn Slater, but to have the drop off be that minimal is mind blowing to me.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see how they approach it for next season. Because Trey will be a free agent. They've always wanted to kick him into guard because once he anchors, you can't move him. And so I think that's, okay, if Filer's a free agent and Trey's a free agent, does he now kick into guard inside of Rashawn? Does he play right tackle? I love the way Trey's played this year. You spent all this time developing him. He's finally come around. No teams have 2 good tackles.
You got to keep him.
Yeah, so I think, to me, that's probably the way it goes. And it's nice to have Jamari as just a swing, even if Filer sticks around another year. And now, if he's not playing well, okay, we'll throw Jamari in there. If someone gets hurt, throw Jamari in, So that's been a real big one too.
So Chargers are sitting at 8-6, coming down the stretch. Currently 6 seed, as you mentioned, Jake. Chargers got 3 games to go. Colts, they got the Broncos, and then they got the Rams. How do you kind of see, what do you see as as you wrap up today? Going into these final 3 weeks, final stretch, is this just about Chargers doing what Chargers need to do?
100%. 100%. They absolutely have to win those 3 games. You're talking about a team that is trending in the right direction, that is getting healthy, that is taking on the, 2 13th place in the conference and 1 14th place in the conference teams. You've got to win those games. These are the playoffs, because if you win those games, I feel pretty good about Baltimore losing another game. I don't. Yeah. So to me, with the Bengals trying to climb, there's no reason for the Bengals not to look. If the Bengals knock off the Ravens in that Week 18 matchup and the Chargers win out, well, now the Bengals get the Ravens again. Would you rather see a beat to hell Ravens team, or would you rather see Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who jumped out 24-0 last year and beat you, by scoring 44 points? So, to me, I think the Bengals are going to play it out, and they're a much better team than the Ravens. So now you're talking about being the 5 seed, playing Tennessee in Tennessee. We know, the state of that team in terms of where they're at health-wise. So to me, that's the goal. And I think on top of that, if you're just as I'm looking at it now, anyone can get got in the AFC this year. I do not feel like it's it was last year.
Yeah.
Last year it felt like, okay, Chiefs are really good. The Bills are really good. It's going to be hard to beat either of those teams. Now, funny enough, it happened, but it was just a wonky second half from the Chiefs against the Bengals that led to that. But, this year I don't necessarily feel that way. The Chiefs defense has had major issues. We've seen how well the Chargers have played them in their 2 games against them. The Bills go through these weird lulls on offense. Either it's, and again, like I said, we know how the Chargers looked against the Bengals. So what I'm getting at is, if you can get to that 5, I won't be surprised if the 6 or the 7, if it's the Ravens and Lamar is all of a sudden healthy, if it's the Dolphins, if it's the Patriots with Bill Belichick coaching the defense, if it's, that Jets defense, I won't be surprised if those teams win in the wild card round. And now you don't have to worry about having to go to Buffalo to play the number 1 seed or Kansas City to play the number 1 seed that was on a bye. You might catch a break and
play one of them.
Yeah. So it's it's all in front of them. It is set up for them. To me, it is set up for them to be the 5 seed. The only team in front of them, has a quarterback issue, and they have to play 2 of their fiercest rivals in the Steelers, a game they should have lost, but Mitch Trubisky threw those 3 red zone interceptions and they missed a field goal. And, a Bengals team that I think is really starting to hum. So to me, they lose one of those 2 games, and now the 5 seed is yours.
Matt Money Smith bringing us perspective on how the Chargers can get to the 5 seed on what we've looked at this last couple of weeks. If you have not heard or seen, Matt Money Smith is going to be doing a little quick event over at SoFi. I believe it's tonight, Matt.
It is
benefiting
tonight.
the Chargers Impact Fund. You're going to see Matt Money Smith on the MC calling charity event. I think is it a flag football?
It is flag football, team LaDainian Tomlinson versus team Antonio Gates. Blue carpet, 5:30. Public gates open at 6. Kickoff at 7 o'clock. So I believe you can still get tickets. If I think they are available, Chargers.com. Just kind of hit that up. It's called Battle of the Goats. You can maybe Google that. It all benefits the Chargers Impact Fund. And dude, Mookie Betts going to be out there. Adrian Gonzalez. So a couple Dodgers, excited to see them. A bunch of NFL players. Terrell Owens going to be out there. Joe Hayden, Hushmanzada, TJ Ward, Deshaun Goldson. Like a lot of, very cool. So, and then a bunch of, celebrities from the world of YouTube and TikTok and TV and film. So,
and the Chargers, Matt Money Smith is there. I mean, for anything else, get to hear his voice all day long. Matt,
I'll be running around.
I love it. I want to see you catch one ball. That's
No
all
chance.
I want to see.
No chance.
Oh, man. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. Chargers are in a great position, prime for a playoff berth. We shall see what they do. Matt, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the week. Stay healthy. We'll talk soon, all right?
You got it. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jay.
All right. Thanks, Matt.